Everyone, and welcome back to our Webinar Wednesday event for June as part of our Leadership and Business Development series. If you're new to joining us on the series, thank you for tuning in. And if you've joined us before, then welcome back. We're glad to have you on. My name is Elizabeth Rico, and I'm Outreach Manager of Leadership and Business Development here at the Arizona Farm Bureau. We are extremely excited this month to have a new member benefit joining us and sponsoring our webinar. And they're giving away a free drone at the end of the webinar in case you missed that morsel of information. This is the first webinar that we've also had a giveaway and the first webinar that we've had a sponsor for the webinar. So we are really, really excited. With us tonight, we have Aaron Berkovich, who's the Regional Sales Manager for Vantage. He's been with them for about a year or so. He's recruiting a team who will be based out of Arizona State University in August. And we have John Love with us as well, who's joining us all the way from the UK. He's an experienced entrepreneur owning a successful property development company since 2003, and he is the one who started Vantage UAV. And in just a second, I'm gonna give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. But first, I wanted to do a couple housekeeping announcements. They are going to introduce themselves, like I said, but first, if you noticed, or if it's on your mind, the giveaway that we're doing at the very end, you have to be present to win. So what we are going to do is in your chat feature at the very bottom, I'm asking all of the participants to put your first and last name, and I will add you to a drawing that we will do at the end. I'm going to do another announcement a little bit later on. So all you have to do is do it one time, and I'll make sure that I put you in so you don't have to put it in multiple times, even though I make multiple announcements. And then even though we can't see or hear you, there is a Q&A feature at the very bottom, and we'd love for you to interact with us. Ask your questions. We have a poll that we will do in a little bit, but ask any and all questions that you have to our two expert panelists that we are so thankful that they're joining us. And then one more thing is, by joining the webinar today, I know we got some information from everybody. We are having Vantage contact all of the registrants and do a free consultation and follow up with you on any questions that you have for them. So with that long-winded announcement, I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves and give them the reins. So gentlemen, go ahead.
All right, I guess in that case, I'll start. So I'm Aaron Berkovich. Like Elizabeth said, I am the regional sales manager out here. I actually first really came into knowledge of a lot of the issues with farming, which is what brought me to this partnership when I was working on congressional campaigns when I spent some time in Iowa. Before that, I grew up in Puerto Rico and San Diego, so not a lot of farming experience there, but definitely a great opportunity and great to learn. And yeah, and then I'll let other than that, I live with my two dogs. I'll let John go from here.
Cheers, Aaron. Yeah, hi guys. Greetings from London. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning over here. So I've had quite a few strong coffees to keep me going. So I'm one of the founders of Vantage. Me and my business partner, we set it up 4.5 years ago. We've got 4 different divisions. So we've got a drone as a service inspections division. So we do a lot of property, do a lot of ag, do a lot of solar, do a lot of renewables in the UK and Europe. And now we're opening up in the USA with Aaron's help. And we've been speaking now for the last year, opened up in Arizona State University in August time. I used to live in New Jersey, so for a few years. So we're going to be setting up an office over there. We've also got a distribution division as well, which is going great guns over in the UK. So we sell a lot of drones. So we do both. We can do the service and we can sell you the product, as well as training and giving you consultancy. So yeah, that's us. And I'll be the one answering your questions on the Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions, and I'll be typing away. So over to you, Aaron, I believe.
Awesome. And so Elizabeth, can we do that poll? So one thing that I would like to ask from everyone is a little bit of background experience and knowledge that you have with drones. The reason we're asking this is to help us figure out which parts to focus on and which we can breeze over.
Perfect. So Aaron, that poll is up. I don't know if you can see it, but the first question is, what's your company's experience with drones? And the second one is, what is your personal experience? So make sure you answer those accordingly. We'll give you a few seconds to answer those. Looks like we've got about 75% of people answered those, so just waiting on a couple people. I feel like I should be playing the Jeopardy music right now.
And then I will get the presentations pulled up, or like, I'll just wait on that one. Cool.
Okay, perfect. So we have just another couple people wrapping up those questions.
And then for those of you who do have experience with drones, if you do want to share your experience in the chat box, then that'd be a great way as well. Because my goal with this presentation is to make sure that we answer your questions as members and address your, your needs. So the more information we get from you in terms of what your experience has been like, or whatever your questions are, the better it'll be, or the easier it'll be for us to actually focus on what what's best for you.
Okay, perfect. So we've got some results. Excuse me. So there is only one person who currently uses drones. The rest have either no experience with their company, or they've discussed it but never looked into it, so thought about it a little bit. There's actually one person who's FAA 107 certified, which is pretty cool. And then everyone else has no personal experience. So I feel like we've got some good ground information, base level information to go with. So thanks guys for answering those.
Perfect. And now where's my mouse? There we go. So can you all see my screen here? I just want to make sure it's up. Perfect. So again, so we're calling this What's the Yield with Drones? Because if we're going to be talking about drones and farms, we want to make sure that, what can we do? And you do have my email down here at the bottom. I left you out, John, because I figured you could get some sleep, but you're all more than welcome to reach out to me with any questions that come up afterwards. I'm here to answer your questions. So that being said, what we're going to cover today is, why are we talking about drones? What are drones? How to use drones in farming, federal regulations, and then how do you choose between drone products and drone services? So my goal is to, number one, break down drones in the drone industry for you. I also want to paint a good enough picture for you to encourage you and your company to look into drones, just to see whether or not, what the best options are for you, and to answer all your questions. So with that, so why drones? So 88% of companies see ROI within their first year of implementing a drone program. The ag drone market is expected to grow to about over $6.5 billion within the next 5 years. And the estimate that I included is the lowest estimate that I found. The reason I included that is basically your competitors are doing this. Now, it's albeit there might not be the most amount of competitors who are doing this, but the companies who are going to succeed in farming are using drone programs, and the farming of the future are going to have, the farms of the future are going to have drone programs. And then this last quote right here, this is actually from the American Farm Bureau. It was published a few years ago, but the first half, precision agriculture has revolutionized American farming by allowing farmers to maximize yields while reducing water, fertilizer, and pesticide use. Drones are the next step in this evolution. Annual crop savings from using drones could reach more than $200 million by 2035. That's from the American Farm Bureau. Personally, I think that that's an understatement just because of how the technology has gone. But I think that really shows between 88% of companies seeing ROI in a first year, and what the Farm Bureau is saying, this is why we're talking about drones. So what are the drones? Now, you may have heard of UAV, or you may see UAS or SUAS. They all are pretty much the same thing. UAV stands for Unmanned Aerial Vehicle. UAS is Unmanned Aircraft System. SUAS is Small Unmanned Aircraft System. The difference between the S and the no S in UAS is that the S is for drones that are 55 pounds or under. Now, these acronyms and what they stand for might change because the FAA is now talking about removing the word manned and unmanned, but that's a whole other topic. And so generally speaking, when we're talking about drones, people think of the drones as either a tool for photography or, movies, a weapon for military, or a toy for millennials. So, right, you could get that bird's eye view, or this is what you picture, or you see the millennial on the beach just with the drones. But what can you actually do with drones? Well, here's an example, and it's a 3D twin model of a property that you can do. Or you can do volumetric analysis and stockpile analysis. Thermal inspection of properties, so you could see bad versus good, structures. Here's a thermal inspection of solar panels. Now, here's a drone that's been outfitted. It's from UC Berkeley, and it's got a carbon fiber boom to sample leaf, water, and air. Here's a drone being used by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln for water sampling. And now we get into 3D virtual twin modeling of the land itself. So you can see the physical, the plants, the vegetation, what the land looks like. Here's a map of Washington, D.C. by the U.S. Geological Survey. And another virtual twin model of this is actually a mine. But the point of bringing those up is to show you that drones are for a lot more than just taking pictures or a toy. So when it comes to general capabilities, we want to cover payload capacity and flight times. What are the typical sizes, the types of drones, and the types of imagery and sensors? Those imagery and sensors are how you can get those cool types of twin modelings and the thermal inspections that I was showing you. So payload capacity, typically when you're talking about commercial and industrial drones, they could carry 5 pounds or more of a payload, and their flight times could be anywhere from 25 minutes to a few hours. As far as size goes, this is me right here, and you can see that they can range from the smaller ones are about 2 feet wide to 7 feet, in diameter. It really depends on the drone, but here's the different sizes. And now let's talk about types of drones. So you could have the multi-rotor drones, the fixed wing drones, single rotor, or fixed wing hybrid VTOLs. Now, the reason I have multi-rotor and single rotor separated is because single rotor sometimes comes in with a gas motor. Multi-rotor is almost always battery powered, or I believe they're always battery. And there's a minor difference where basically battery or gas has better flight time sometimes, especially in this heat. And then multi-rotor has a few more safety aspects to it, but that's why those are separated. So when we're talking about the multi-rotor drones, these are going to be the most common ones that you see. They are because they're the lowest cost. They also have vertical takeoff and landing, so it's very easy to use anywhere you go, and they have hovering capabilities. One cool thing about them being battery powered is that a lot of drones now are being manufactured so that you can have multiple batteries. When one runs out, it lands, you just swap the battery and it just takes off and it keeps going. So those are multi-rotor, and they're classified by number of rotors. The fixed wings are more energy efficient because they don't have to spend that energy from the battery or from the motor to stay afloat. They're creating their own lift. So that gives them longer flight times. They can be battery or gas powered. You might hear the ice cream truck in the background because there's an ice cream truck coming by. So I apologize. These do fly faster than rotary drones, so they cover more acreage, which is better for obviously larger. That being said, they don't hover. They do cost a bit more. Single rotors, they can hover, vertical takeoff. This is where they come in battery or gas powered. And they're more efficient than multi-rotor because they only have one motor versus multiple. But then because of that, they have fewer safeguards, and they're sort of the in-between for fixed wing and multi. And then the fixed wing hybrids, also known as VTOL, is vertical takeoff or landing. These are ones where, as you see, it's got these propellers so it can do the vertical takeoff, unlike this fixed wing, nothing for vertical takeoff. And then it's got the wings to help it with energy efficiency for flights. So they have the longest flight time, the highest payload capacity, and they do have hover capabilities. So do we have any questions so far before I go on to sensors? I'm trying to pull up I'll let John answer those and interrupt. So
yeah, there's a couple. So yeah, there's a couple of questions. I've just answered one in terms of our experience on the ag side of it, and we've got plenty of that over in the UK, but obviously over in America as well. We've got a lot of pilots that have got ag experience, both identifying cattle and crop analysis. So we use a lot of multispectral drones for crop analysis to identify the types of soil, so you can get more efficient with the data. In a nutshell, the drone is just a tool that collects the data, and it's what you do with that data that's crucial. Our team of data analysts can help you devise and work with that data, so we can produce, if it's an asset, if you're inspecting a building, we can do an asset, we can do a digital twin where you do like on the computer, a 3D model of your property. If it's on your farm, we can do infrared thermal of your cattle, keep an eye on them as well. So there's loads of different use cases. We've also there's also autonomous drones as well. You can just program in it and it just zooms off and does the same route all the time. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so I'm just interrupting you there, Aaron. I hope you don't mind, buddy. And
don't mind at all. I just pulled up the Q&A, so I do apologize on going fast there.
And that's my next point. Yeah, we got someone saying to slow down a little bit. So yeah, I said, look, we're more than happy to talk about offline, next week. We can talk for hours, however long you've got. I mean, a quick conversation, a long conversation, whatever. We're more than happy to chat in more detail about the different types of drones, which can be multi-rotor, which Aaron's going to talk to you about, which he has, or VTOL, which is the long distance ones. So they go for a good few hours. But again, I'm interrupting, so I'm going to mute myself. Right.
On the point too, the question or whoever had asked if you would slow down a little bit. I know it's like drinking through a fire hose. There's a ton of information and really good information, but we do record all of the webinars and we will post them after the fact. So if something sparked your interest or you want to go back and revisit it, we will have those posted. So if you have questions, you can reach out to me at the very end of this and I can give you the link for that too if you miss anything.
And I also don't mind sharing the presentation where I include the links to some of the studies that that are listed. And so that way, if you'd like, you can go through the study yourself as well. The reason I was going kind of fast in the beginning is because I just wanted to get over kind of what the types are, but now we're going to go slow down and start expanding on that. So what we have, and let me, since you could see my screen, So when it comes to drones, there are 5 types of sensors that you can, of imaging sensors that you can get. You have the visual, so that's the high resolution, the 4K, LiDAR, which stands for, like, 1 second, because I wrote it down, but I forgot it. But basically, it's like radar or sonar, but it's with light. So what it does is it emits many lasers, basically, of different colors. You don't really see it, but it uses that to create a map of the terrain and vegetation. You have thermal sensors, you have multispectral, and you have hyperspectral. So I'm going to cover these two as one, just because they're both relying on light waves, essentially. I'm not going to cover hyperspectral because that is more geared towards soil, and I don't have the most experience with that because it's not the most common. So these two we're going to talk about together, and then we're going to talk about visual and thermal. So with that, with high resolution imaging, it's what you typically think of when you're talking about drones. These are the ones that you use in marketing, or if you want to, live stream to the public, which you technically can with farming. They help provide records for disaster claims. So if you, like in this case, I'm not going to, but you can count out how many plants are in every single row. And if you have some sort of disaster, whether it's a fire or a flood, or I don't know whatever it is, you can point, you have the proof of how many plants you had in that location. You could use it for inventory management, and you could use them for security and surveillance, it's like normal security cameras. And like I said earlier, these are the most commonly associated ones with drones. Let's see, information, GIS. All right, I'm just going to that. So thermal imaging, this is especially useful for locations that require either a temperature controlled environments, and at the same time, it's very useful for detecting leaks and substructural defects. So in this case, you can use the thermal imaging. As you can see here, it's doing a building audit and energy audit. So which you can use for, checking out your assets. If you have any large assets that are outside, whether it's mechanical or not, to make sure that they're not overheating. You can use these in they're used in search and rescue, but in farming, you can use that to find predators. If you know that there's a javelina, in the area, or a bear, which I bring up because there's one stuck in the power lines a couple of weeks ago, you can use thermal imaging to find those, and that way you can protect yourself. Surveillance, at nighttime, or if it's low visibility, you can make sure that there's no one on your property, no trespassing. You can use them for hotspot detection and fires. It's actually used that they do get used. And specifically with farming, you could use them for heat stress, to detect heat stress in individual plants and animals. LiDAR. So this is what you use mostly for, and multispectral imaging. This is what you use for geographical surveying. So when they do this, you do connect the drone to the GPS, and that way you can pinpoint exact locations of what you're seeing. So in this case, now this is in the metric system, but generally speaking, the accuracy of these, it comes down to 1 square inch. So you can find exact differences between inches of each other. This is the type of sensors that you're going to use for virtual twin modeling of the property or of buildings. You can use it for erosion detection. It's a lot more accurate than high resolution imaging when you're looking to do inspections on your crops or the soil. And it's the type of sensor that you're going to use for volumetric analysis. So, yep. So here's just a small list of examples of how drones have been used in farming, or they have been used for property and perimeter surveillance. I bring that one up a lot just because it is one of the more common uses of drones. Inventory management, locating livestock and predators, irrigation and fertilization analysis. That's one that would rely on the LiDAR or the multispectral sensors. You could use them for large asset inspections. So if you happen to have a conveyor belt, anything with warehousing, a silo, cranes, you can. That's where they come into play. Autonomous inspections. So with the way that you do that is you map out what area you want the drones to survey, and they can just go out and do these surveys based on the area that you've mapped out. I mean, if you wanted to, you could have them map the same area every single day to collect data on a daily basis and just compare how things are going. Or if you want to do it once a year, you could do that. Air quality assessments, soil analyses, plant and livestock health assessments are one that really stuck out to me because it gives you the opportunity to pinpoint which plants or animals might have some type of infection or disease, or when it comes to crops, you can find out which ones might have a fungus. And that way you can stop the spread without getting rid of healthy, if it's in the crops, you can stop the spread without getting rid of healthy crops. If it's a sick individual in the herd, you can isolate them if necessary. Now, drones are also used for crop spraying, which is what this drone in the image is doing. And drones are used for water and heat stress mapping. Again, these are just some examples of how they've been used, simply because there are so many different examples. Now, one thing I do want to point out is this is a tool for all of this. So it's not, when you're talking about doing an asset inspection or perimeter surveillance or anything like, any analysis, you're not replacing anybody. You're simply giving the people who you have a tool to improve the productivity and focus more time on fixing issues that exist rather than focusing their time on finding the issues that need to be fixed. So when it comes to benefiting from drones, it's like I was just saying, it's a tool for precision agriculture. It's a way to collect the data that can help you with your decision making. And because of that, it helps improve yield and productivity. You're spending less time, you're spending more time solving problems and addressing issues. It helps you reduce risk. Similar to how I was talking about finding predators or trespassers. That's one way of doing it, the heat mapping. And then your lower operating costs, because now you're spending less time searching and more time doing, or you're improving what each person's output is. So the reason we call it a tool for precision agriculture is these three quotes. The first one is from Texas A&M, and they said drones could apply thermal imaging to identify sick livestock in feedlots. Just want to point out that was from Texas A&M. Now, according to Business Insider, it said drones allow farmers to constantly monitor crop and livestock conditions by air to quickly find problems that would not become apparent in ground level spot checks. That was published earlier this year. One other thing about that too is maybe the issues, the problems might be easy to find with ground level spot checks, but you're covering the area faster with drones. And this last one, this longer quote is from the FAO in partnership with the UN. And it just, to me, it really stands out. The demand for agricultural products is due to rise even further, with estimations of aggregate agricultural consumption to increase by 69% from 2010 to 2050, mostly fueled by an increase in global population from 7 to 9 billion people during the same time frame. So I'm going to pause and thank all of you, because as farmers, you're the ones who are feeding us and the world. You're the ones who have basically the responsibility of feeding this giant growth in people. Now, the only feasible answer for this urgent call for increased agricultural production must come from the technology sector. Drone technology and advanced image data analytics, with the capabilities it provides, have the potential to become important parts of the technology mix that could fill that gap. Also, what the FAO is saying is, when it comes to precision agriculture as the tool for farms to keep us in the world fed, drones are one of the most prominent tools to help you meet those demands and those needs. So now let's cover precision farming specifically with drones. Now with this, and again, it's going to depend on what type of sensors you use and what kind of information you want, but you can study the crop water stress and get a crop water stress index, especially right now with the drought. And I understand how difficult it can be for some of you to get not how difficult it can be, but how difficult it actually is to get the necessary water to feed your cattle. And like I said, it's different, but to feed your crops. This is huge, because now you can make sure that you're not overwatering any plants or areas, and you can focus every drop on an as needed basis. Drones also help out with the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, or NDVI. They help with measurements for crop, soil, water, health. They give you real-time imaging and sensor data. So we're not talking about paying extra for a satellite image and that was taken not too, who knows when. You can literally go out and measure the irrigation as it's, whether it's flood irrigation or sprinklers or drip, you can measure it live as it's happening to make sure it's all happening the way it's supposed to. This gives you the opportunity to identify specific crops that aren't getting enough water or that are getting too much water, which then helps you make sure that every drop of water that you're transporting onto your farm is being directed in the most efficient manner. And it helps out with soil erosion mapping. So in that case, if when there is erosion that's an issue, then you can go ahead and just detect that, map it out, make sure that it's not something that is going to cause a problem for you. If it is, then you have an opportunity to fix it before it's too late. And I do want to focus a little bit on NDVI, simply because drones are such a powerful tool for that. And this quote right here, it's from NASA. And so they talk about how NDVI is calculated, but starting on the second sentence, so starting here, it says, healthy vegetation absorbs most of the visible light that hits it and reflects a large portion of the near infrared light. Unhealthy or sparse vegetation reflects more visible light and less near infrared light. So when you're looking at this picture, and this is what NDVI looks like. This is a farm on the left using high resolution imaging. And here on the right, it's using NDVI. And what you can see when you're using the NDVI is these are, I'm colorblind, so I'm not going to try and tell you what the colors are, but I do know this color is different than these colors. So those of you, so that would tell you what you're supposed to do. Now, given it's going to be something that depends on your crops, and it's going to depend on what they need, but this will give you the color scheme that is necessary for you to pinpoint which areas are in help, are in danger or at risk, and which areas are healthy. Now, when it comes to precision ranching, drones have been proven to have over 95% accuracy in distinguishing between individual specimens. So by that, what I mean is if there's a specific individual in the herd that you're looking for, the drone can learn all the members of your herd. And with at least a 95% accuracy, it can find that specific individual anywhere on the ranch. Or if it escapes, it could help you find it while it escaped, you know, if it's on public lands. Now, they've also shown that flights, as long as they're about 10 feet or higher, they don't impact the health of cattle. Now, that is a species-specific study. So if you know, depending on what you have in the herd, there may be a little bit of wiggle room there, or there may be a slight change. But ultimately, it's been shown that the drones do not impact the health, as long as you know you can find a safe distance in order to monitor them. And now they are also used for monitoring and managing pastures. So this helps you determine the areas that are receiving the proper irrigation for the food that they need, the plants. Since I'm blanking out on actual words, but you can do that. You can herd the cattle and the livestock if you wanted to, so you don't necessarily have to go out in person. It's been shown that you can do that with a few different drones. You can create a digitally defined fence where if one of the individuals is found to pass the fence, then the drone can autonomously go out and herd, or bring that individual back into a predefined perimeter that you have set. Finding and detecting sick individuals. So instead of having to pay for the vet to check every single one that you have, and finding out when it's too late, with thermal imaging, you can find out who has a fever, for example, and get that fixed up as soon as you can. Finding predators, so it goes back to same technology as search and rescue. It's something scientists are using for studying bears and finding whatever animals they're studying. You can use that on your property to find out if there's a mountain lion or a bear or any predator to be aware of. Or if you happen to know that there is one, then you can have a drone go out, and as long as it's trained to know what the animal is, it can simply autonomously go out and search for this animal to tell you, or a person to tell you where their location is, and that way you can make sure that your herd is safe. You have you can observe pregnant cows. I'm sure some of you want to just make sure that they're doing well, so it gives you an opportunity to watch them. At the same time, you could also watch the calves. There's quite a few instances of people using drones just to check up on the animal behavior, especially with calves or the pregnant cows, because that way they can make sure that they're being fed correctly and not being hurt by the weather, especially right now in summertime. And you can prevent cattle theft, or in some cases, you can find the cattle if it was stolen from you. And that comes down to, these drones, again, they have at least 95% accuracy. Point one, they can be at least 95% accurate in distinguishing between the individual specimens. So if there's a specific one you're looking for, you can make sure that it's found. Now, I call this roofed inventory because it doesn't necessarily have to be indoors. If you have any structure that has a roof over it, you can use drones. And so, for example, when we're talking about NDVI for, measuring the health of crops, you can do that inside a warehouse at or in a vertical farm under a roof, which is something you can't do with manned aircraft or satellites. At the same time, you can simply keep track of inventory that's indoors or under a roof. It doesn't have to be a plant or an animal. It can be anything that you have in inventory in a warehouse. You can keep track of it and the quantity with drones, and that way when it's time to replace anything. And then you can do the structural inspections. It comes down to finding substructural defects. Perhaps there's any leaks with the AC, plumbing, gas pipelines. You can find those leaks with these drones. I'm just reading one of the questions here. I will proper sensor estimate volume of water and small body of water. I'm gonna have to get back to you. I did find some information about volumetric analysis, specifically to water volume. I will have to double check what I found. I do know that you can gain accurate counts of levels as far as how they are, but I don't know about depth levels, so I'll have to get back to you on that one. And then energy and temperature audits, again, you want to make sure, especially if you have a warehouse that needs to be temperature controlled, you want to make sure that you're spending your money on keeping the food and the produce or the products, whatever it is, in the right temperature, and that you're not spending money to air condition the outside sun while it's 115. So when we're talking about improved yield and productivity, it's because better data means better decisions. Again, drones are a tool. They're not replacing any jobs. They're simply a way to gain the information that you need. So that comes down to NDVI again, detecting and repairing anomalies. So prevent disaster from happening because you're finding a problem. And then crop performance depends on water stress prevention. The more you can prevent the water stress, the better the crop performance. Reduced risk reduction. This is not a farm. This is actually the use of a thermal sensor for firefighting. And that's because the firefighters are using it to find hotspots so that they could pinpoint where they need to cool off. You can use that on the farms and and your property as well, especially if it's post one of these fires, whether it's controlled or wild. You can make sure that the land is not hot and that there's no fire dangers. Detecting, locating predators, again, perimeter property surveillance, and you're now eliminating the need to climb, whether or not you're using a thermal sensor. By using drones, you're eliminating the need to climb structures for inspections. This is a very long quote from the American Bar Association about why drones can help reduce risk, but I will let you all come back to this later just for the sake of time. So lower operating costs. It's because knowledge is power. And the more you know about your company and your business, the better your decisions, the easier it is. You can now do more inspection in less time. You can correct your management decisions according to what the plants and the livestock actually need. Going back to knowledge is power. You don't have to guess things. You're reducing guess and check. You're now getting hard data on what you're trying to do. You're optimizing ROI with fertilizer, fungicide, etc. You're using the exact amount that you need, exactly where it needs to be done. You're removing that guess and check. And then you're not having to pay for satellite imaging or for fuel for manned aircraft. Even if you get a gas-powered drone or use a gas-powered drone, it's going to use a lot less fuel than a helicopter or an airplane with a few people in it. Federal regulations. Now, I only chose, cover FAA, USDA, EPA, and Bureau of Land Management. One thing I do want to point out is this link at the bottom. If you want to stay up to date with all federal regulations and anything that they're discussing, proposed regulations, you can go to www.regulations.gov. That's not only for drones, that's for any federal regulations. So with the FAA, you want the Part 107 is the commercial license required for commercial piloting. You still do need a Part 137 if you're going to use drones for ag spraying. Now, this whole thing right here, it's basically about location settings on drones. The FAA requires IDs to be on drones because of the fact that as of 2018, there's 3 times as many drones registered with the FAA as the total amount of registered aircraft, manned aircraft, so planes and helicopters through the history of flight. So that's just how many drones there are. And I'll get into a little bit more in a moment in terms of why they're requiring this. But one thing with the remote IDs is because it could be troublesome in rural areas, you can attach a sort of broadband or a hotspot for a cellular connection or for wireless connection onto a drone. And you could have that hover in place to help with your internet connection in the middle of nowhere, as if they were, tied to a balloon that was anchored down. Now, they did pass a new rule for requiring this. Again, that's because of how many drones there are and because of some issues they've been having with pilots. Well, not pilots, but more hobbyists. But that's why it's important to make sure that when you are going into the commercial realm, that you are using someone who is licensed with the Part 107, or that you get a waiver from the FAA. They do offer waivers to excuse you from having to use a Part 107 license for multiple reasons, but you do have to get a waiver first. The USDA, for the most part, they really only depend on the FAA for the rules and guidance. They haven't done too much with drones, but they do have regional contacts for commercial UAS flights over public lands. Saying you do need special permission for some lands, and then flights over national forests and systems must meet the FAA requirements. So that's one where you really, if you're going to be in national forest or land, you need that waiver or that license. With the EPA, they don't really have much regulations in terms of how to use drones, but what I can say is they're looking into and beginning to use drones as a tool for compliance inspections and enforcement. So the reason I bring that up is on your end, you can use drones to make sure that you're keeping up with compliance and to do your inspections in order to keep them from knocking on your door. Unfortunately, I have to talk about staying away from fires with the Bureau of Land Management because in 2021 alone, there were 21 cases of interference from drones. Firefighting aircraft can fly as low as 150 feet above ground, which is how it's so easy for drones and drone pilots to interfere with firefighting. And it's one of the main reasons why there are the new FAA requirements to have an ID on all drones. It's to prevent this and other hazards. So when you're choosing a drone product or service, you want to compare the benefits of the products versus the benefits of the service, and then how do you select and vet suppliers? So the benefits of the products are it's going to be readily available. You purchase it, it's in your hands, you can use it whenever you want. There's a possibility that it costs less for a single purpose. So if you only want to use drones for thermal imaging or for NDVI, for example, then it can cost you less to simply have that, depending on how often you want to use it. At the same time, when there is an emergency or if you need to quickly use a drone for an inspection or for search, when you purchase it, you have that available to you. At the same time, but you're going to need licensing or waivers, whether you use the drones yourself or in-house, or whether you contract that out. Now, when you're getting a service, it can reduce the time to adjust, because the people who, as long as they're trained and licensed, they know exactly what they're looking to do and how to get the data that you need. It could cost you a lot less, especially when you have multiple types of data that you're trying to collect. You're transferring the liability. So for example, going back to the firefighting, if you're the one who's doing the drones yourself in-house and you interfere with the firefighters, even if it's unintentional, that's on you. But if you choose a service to do it, then that's on them and you're safe. At the same time, make sure that they're licensed. Now, I will point out that this right here, it's the DJI Phantom 4. It's one of the most common ones in surveying and in agriculture, because it was specifically designed for land surveying and also for NDVI. So when you're selecting and vetting suppliers, you want to make sure that they work with multiple manufacturers. I like to think that there's no one product or company that's perfect for everyone. So you want to make sure that who you're working with has those options available to you, so that you can do a cost benefit analysis and compare what your different options are. And with actually real quick, so this right here is actually the Parrot. It's the Parrot Anafi. It's got a built-in thermal sensor, and so that's specifically designed for asset inspections. And then here we have a DJI multi-rotor that is outfitted with a yellow scan, a LiDAR, and that's one of the most advanced type, or a very high quality LiDAR manufacturer that really provides fully integrated navigation and quality 3D virtual twin modeling of land and assets. So that's a lot. And with that, I'll open up to any questions, comments, and feedback.
So we've had quite a few questions come in. Shall I just do a little overview of what we've been asked and the type of answers I've been on a high level overview? Shall I quickly do that?
Sure.
I will do.
Yeah, definitely do. There were some really, really good questions that came in too. I think would apply to everybody.
Yeah. So we had, do we work with livestock operations, and do we have expertise with crops? Absolutely. We've done a lot of crop analysis jobs and identifying cattle. So that's a yes to that one. Aaron, please slow down. Yeah, I think you did in the end. We got, can we do measuring humidity? Dew point, yes. Can we do overlaying GIS mapping system? Yeah, absolutely. We've got GIS technicians in the office, and they're constantly working on all the data that's being collected, because as Aaron mentioned, it's all about the data that you collect from the drone. Is there a line of sight requirement for flight? So yeah, this is a good question, this one. So if you're on a multi-rotor drone, yeah, you do need it's a line of sight max, and you can have a spotter though who can extend that line of sight. But we're actually working with a large German port, and we're currently doing BVLOS, which is beyond visual line of sight. So this port we've been working with for 2 years is in Hamburg. They actually own their own airspace. So they've done this, we've developed this autonomous system where they can control up to 100 drones, all from the same system, and they can be at different locations globally. And it can all controlled on the actual laptop, and that's BVLOS, and that's the new game. That'd be a game changer in the industry. So the FAA at the moment with BVLOS, they're doing like trials with some certain companies, and that's the same with the regulators all around the globe. It's a case of working with them to get this BVLOS operational. So that's an exciting project that everyone's working to get to, is the BVLOS. Volumetric analysis. Oh, go on, Aaron, you're going to say something?
To my understanding, you can get a waiver for beyond the line of visual line of sight for certain uses with the FAA. And so that's one of the ones where, if you're coming in and depending on the size of your plot of land, if you're requesting to use it over your property specifically, then there are possibilities to get the waiver.
Yeah, and that's a question that's asked a bit later about that. So what we're good at is, if you guys don't want to speak to the regulators, that's what we do. So we can help smooth that process, and we know what paperwork to fill in, because there is quite a bit of paperwork to do. So that's something we do. That's what we do. That is basically what we do. It's filling in a lot of paperwork. All right. Okay. We mentioned about volumetric analysis. Yeah. So normally it's just for we do a lot of stockpiles, like for mining and sand calculations. You put ground control points around the stockpile, and then you with the GPS fly the drone over, and then you can calculate exactly how much is in that large stockpile. But this question was about water, and I need to double check that with the guys in the office tomorrow, be honest with you on that one, so we can come back to that one. And then the last question was about the waivers. How difficult is it to get the waivers, and Forest Service, etc. So obviously a lot of the ranchers have got leases on these lands, but it would be to get the regulations in place, and we'll work with the people that are involved. So that's something we can help with. So we've done some very many complicated jobs, and that's all around the globe. So dealing with easy regulators, but some very tricky ones as well. One other point as well I wrote down was AI is a big thing in the drone industry. Obviously AI, artificial intelligence, is a buzzword that's been around the block for the last few years. It's been a lot of talk, but there's a drone that we have which uses AI, and it's great because it uses GPS as well as visual sensors where the AI sits. So it would do an inspection. Let's say you're doing a property inspection, it will do it autonomously to create a 3D model. But what's so good about it is, if there's a big tree, or there's a scaffolding, or some kind of obstacle that the drone wouldn't normally see if it's on GPS, but because it's got the visual AI sensor, it will see that live, and it will work around that. That's a real game changer, and that's pretty because DJI, we sell a lot of DJI kit, but there's Chinese. So this particular manufacturer is American, and they're going to knock DJI off. It's a proper game changer, that. And another AI, I was speaking to an AI company earlier today, actually, and you can actually track vehicles once it's in its sights, and you've penciled it in. You can then track a vehicle. It will circle around the vehicle as it's driving off, and it will autonomously track that vehicle, which could be, that vehicle could be anything. It could be somebody coming onto your property, and it's like, who on earth is that? I'll get the drone up and just get them to follow it until it stops. Yeah. So AI is a big thing in the business as well. So I hope that answers all the questions, actually. Yeah. And if you've got any other questions, then please feel free.
I'm going to piggyback real quick on the waiver question. The best way to speed up the process with any waivers, whether it's FAA or any, regardless of government, is submit the request and then reach out to your representative. If it's federal, reach out to, U.S. House, U.S. Senate. If it's state, then whoever your local state senator is, because that's literally what their job is. That's why they're collecting our taxes. So on top of everything else, so put them to the work and reach out to them, because they will reach out to the department and make sure that your waiver is at least reviewed, and to help things get going.
We've had one question come in, and I've just answered it, but I'm going to speak about it. So we're being asked about what services we offer. So in a nutshell, there's four different services we offer as a business. So drones as service. So we do the whole shebang in terms of the risk assessments, and we send a pilot out there with the kit. We provide the kit as well as the pilot and the team to go and do the job, whatever that is, we do the job. We then go back to the office, we collect all the data, and then we'll do the data analysis as well and send you that data, whatever output you need. So it can be raw data, raw images, or it can be a 3D model, or it can be a detailed report, as Aaron mentioned before on the ag side of it. We're also a reseller distributor. So if you want to do it yourself and you're qualified, then we can sell you the drone and you just fly it. Okay. And we also have a training department, so we train you up. So if you want to do the latter and you want to buy your own drone and become a pilot, we can do that for you. We can give you the training. And the fourth is consultancy. So we do we have a go-to-market arm. So that's what we're doing with the European port. So we're taking their technology, the BVLOS, to the global marketplace. So we're actually approaching companies on their behalf. So that's the four areas we do.
Well, you had another question come in here really quick. I want to make sure you answer it. Do you have a specific experience with vineyards? Because I know viticulture in Arizona the last few years has blown up across the state. So what would be some application that they could do if they had vineyards?
Yeah, I mean, I've done vineyards in Europe. I know that for a fact, because our pilots are very experienced. So, if I ask my pilots tomorrow, have you done track record with vineyards? Yeah, I'm pretty certain they would say yeah. So that's not a problem. But yeah, if that's something you want to work, you've got a live project there and you want us to help out and give you a quote on that, let's chat next week or whenever you want to have a chat, and we can do that for you.
Perfect. And then one other thing, we've had some people pop on and off. So I wanted to tell everybody, if you're just joining us, the information that you gave us to register for the webinar, we're going to share it with the guys here at Vantage so they can reach out and answer some of your specific questions and talk to you guys more about your property, your operations, your agribusinesses, and really make sure that they give you the best options for your farm, your ranch, your agribusiness, whatever that is. Perfect. Are there any other final questions that have come in, or does anybody have any other questions they want to ask? And I'll give you guys a minute to think about that. And then if you just popped on or left and popped on, I've seen a couple people have kind of shuffled in the mix. In the chat feature, not the Q&A feature, in the chat feature, make sure that you give me your full name, first and last name. If you already did in the beginning of the webinar, you don't have to, but if you're new and you want to be entered in the drawing at the end, I need that information. So you have a couple other questions, guys, and then everybody else, make sure you give me your name in the chat box. Oh, this one's just a comment. This is actually from Phil Basha, who's the CEO here at Arizona Farm Bureau. He said he appreciates how you can help provide information and consultation on the technology can be applied to a specific operation. Good. I'm glad you guys see the answer or the value in that. Marcos, go ahead and type your question in. You don't have audio or video capabilities on this, but I see you have a question. So go ahead and type it in the question box. And then Aaron and John, you both have, you have another question. I'll let you guys answer.
I'll answer that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, drones do crash, and we have technicians who do. Their sole job is fixing drones and answering customers, clients, support questions on how to get a drone to work and things like that. So that we've got a helpline that we can help you guys with any kind of problems. Literally 24/7. That's Aaron's team, so he manages that. So maybe not 24/7, but a lot of most of the hours of the day. There is an American drone out there actually that it's called the Teal Golden Eagle, and we've just started selling that, and that's awesome because it's very modular. So it's got a rubber antennae, and it's quite a small thing, but it's very robust, and it comes in parts in very modular. So if it does crash, you can fix and replace it straight away, which is why the police, the law enforcement, they love it, absolutely love that, because their drones will crash quite a lot, so they can fix it there and then, which is awesome.
And then one other thing with that is the multi-rotors, because they have multiple rotors, that's one of the safeguards they have. In a way, it's basically it's redundancy. So if there's one motor malfunction, they still have others to at least help it land safely and help prevent crashing. So it's not to say that there's no crashing, but by having multiple rotors, it helps reduce the risk or the damage.
That's one of the benefits of having us as professional drones as a service pilots, because our pilots have had many hours of flying, so they've been there, done that with the crashing. So when they come to do the job, they're fine. They're all good.
Great. It sounds like you guys have a lot of really good information and a lot of really great experience. And I'm glad the question about crashing was asked, because I know if I happen to fly a drone, I'm pretty sure that would be the first order of business that I would accomplish, would be crashing that bad boy.
Yeah, I mean, the drones are getting smaller, but you can get some big drones as well. And we do a lot of wind turbines as well. So some of the offshore ones, you got to be very experienced to do that. And these wind turbines are getting bigger and bigger by the year. Some of the blades are worth like $1 million each blade. So if we crash one of them, we're going to get sued for a lot of money. So that's why, our pilots have a lot of expertise in particular niche fields before we send them to a client. And we do the same with you guys as well on the ag side of it.
Absolutely. Another question just came in. It said, do most of your ag clients have multiple flights over a period of time, or often once a year type of thing?
It depends. Yeah, that's a great question. It all depends on the client. Yeah, so it could be regular inspections, crop analysis. Some people like to do that on a regular basis. Other times it's just as and when for an asset inspection, like a building inspection they got on their property, just to see what's going on. Or it could be a thermal inspection at night time to see heat loss coming out of that building. But yeah, everybody's different, so I can't really give an answer to that.
It really depends on what it comes down to. One of the things that I was discussing with finding and vetting whoever your supplier is, you want to make sure that they work with you and they customize it with you, because you have your own needs. No two companies are the same. If you have multiple farms, no two properties are going to be the same. So you want to make sure that you're getting whatever information you need based on what your goals are. And so, like Don was saying, for some people it could be once a year. Some people it could be a lot more often than that. It really depends.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay, well, guys,
one last point. Sorry, Elizabeth. 2 o'clock in the morning here. I should be fast asleep. So there's one thing that we're going to be doing, because we're setting up the office in ASU in August, but we will be doing demo days, which, because it's so local to you guys, and we'll be sending an invite for that to do it. Come on down, or we can come to you and do a personalized demo day for a particular type of drone that could be of interest. And that could be the American drones that we were talking about, It could be multispectral drones. It could be DJI, obviously the Chinese ones. It could be VTOL as well, the fixed takeoff and landing ones. They go for miles. So there's a lot of different drones, and what we'll do when we speak to you next week, we'll send you some information on all the different types of drones, and you'll think, oh, okay, yeah, that one is ideal for my needs. And then once you've identified the type, we can talk about that in terms of pricing, or we can just grab on, get on the phone and just talk about that, quickly for half an hour, the different types that are suitable for your purposes, give you some ballpark pricing, and then you can go away, think about it, or just move forward if you want to do something soon. So, leave that to you guys.
Great. So Marcos Moore just typed in, and he said that the experience that he's had is that the best use of drones has been on taller crops or in produce or pre-visual symptoms for pathology. Have you guys noticed that, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, this is that you've obviously got a drone, so that's good. Yeah, so absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of use cases. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it depends on the sensors that you're using and the kind of drone that you're using. There's like tons of studies. For example, you could look at lettuce. You could look at, they use drones for lettuce. They use, I meant to cover earlier, but I didn't, or I think I forgot to. You could actually use drones to sample insects that are going. This is one case that I haven't done that one. I came across that in one case where they sampled insects just to make sure that they're removing pests and they're attracting the beneficial ones. So it really, when you're talking about analyzing the different crops and the sizes, it comes down to a few different things in terms of what kind of data are you looking to get. At the same time, it depends on the sensors that you're using, because the different sensors have different strengths, but size is one of those things that it can potentially play a role depending on how dense the crops are. But from everything that I've been looking over, all the research and from experience, it doesn't play a major role.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, what do you guys think we should do next?
The drone giveaway.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Aaron, I appreciate that you have your dogs there at home. I also have my dogs, so they seem to know when there's something going on and seem to be the most active.
They know exactly towards the end of every call that I'm on.
Yeah, mine do too. They also know the sound of the Microsoft Teams call hanging up, and they get excited because they know that I'm off a call. So they've adapted well to working from home.
Oh yes.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen. Well, first I'll give you guys let me give you guys another like 30 seconds or so. If you haven't typed into the chat feature at the very bottom and haven't given me your first and last name to be entered in the drone giveaway, I'll give you guys a minute to do that. If you did it in the very beginning and you're still on, I have you already locked in and already down. But if you haven't, oh, perfect. There you go, Marcus. So now I have, I'll give you guys a second to make sure that you're entered into that. That's the coolest part of this. Oh yeah, perfect. So Aaron also put his contact information down there at the bottom. And like I said, they'll be reaching out to you here in the near future to follow up with any questions you have or specific ideas for your operations. Sorry for the awkward silence. Give me just a second to make sure I got everybody in there. All right, Kimberly, I just saw you come in. Okay, you guys have just a few more seconds if you want to be in on this and you haven't put it in. Partially or part of the reason we're waiting and I'm making you answer this live is to make sure that you are here and awake and paying attention. Because if John is here at 2 in the morning in London, then we want you to be here too.
Elizabeth, we got a message from Mr. Moore.
Okay.
Just double checking that he's on the
Oh,
wheel.
it says that
Yeah.
it was dismissed by the host, but Marcos, that just means that I saw that you put your name in. So I do have you down on the wheel, and it'll pop up here in just a second. Let me see. Aaron wanted to know if it got through. Yep. So Aaron, I got you down. I'll go ahead and share my screen with the wheel. You guys can see how cool this is. Okay, perfect. Let me make sure that there's nobody else that came in that I missed. Is there anything in the chat, guys? I can't see it now that I have my screen up.
It looks like Aaron was the last name that was put in there.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I got Aaron. So the way that I will do this is we'll spin the wheel, and then I can go back and unmute whoever the participant is to make sure that you're there and you're awake and you're with us and you're ready for your drone. So to make sure that you're
Proof of life.
right. That's what we need. We need to make sure that you're with us. So I'm going to, and these are in no particular order. I'll shuffle them around. It doesn't really matter. It'll just go through and randomly pick somebody. So you guys can all see the screen, right? Aaron and John, can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to tap it. Ooh, it's got
Sound
Santa.
effects.
This is so exciting. Okay. Oh wait, that's hard.
Emily Nichols. Congratulations.
Yeah, and it gives you
Win yourself a drone from Vantage UAV.
right, which I feel is the coolest part is you get some confetti. So Kimberly, I'm going to allow you to talk, just jump through and say hi. Give me just a second. Okay, Kimberly, are you there? You may have to unmute yourself. I don't know if I have that capability. Let me make sure. Okay, Kimberly, are you online with us? Oh, she says
She just
muted,
posted
but I
the
mean,
chat.
Sent a message,
so,
yeah, so she's there.
so I mean, I feel like that's good enough if you're typing with us.
That's good enough for proof of life. Yeah, we can.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
That's good.
Yay. That's exciting. And you got the confetti, which, you know, that's the coolest part of it. So Kimberly, we have your contact information from the registration. So I'll go through and reach out to you here right after this. And then the guys will touch base with you here pretty soon, probably in the next few days, about how to get it to you. And depending on what county you're at, we can work with the outreach manager of those counties to see if we can get that to you that way as well. So perfect. Kimberly, thanks and congratulations. Super, super thankful that you were on with us. I was worried. I was like, oh no, what do I don't want to click somebody else because I think this is super cool. Perfect. Thank you, John and Aaron. Appreciate you guys jumping on with us, John. I know it's a little bit late. You're allowed to go to sleep now after this. You earned it.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then for everybody else, the Webinar Wednesday series is something that we're continuing through the year. We do these the last Wednesday of every month. There is no webinar in August, November, and December. Those are our annual meetings, policy development season, and those are really hectic. So if you're out and about in your counties and you want to be involved with those things and see your outreach managers and some of your field staff out there, let us know, reach out to us. These webinars are all recorded and they'll be on our website afterwards. So if you want to go back through and review some of the information, we'll have that for you. I'll also have the Aaron and John's contact information for you as well. So with that, boys, is there anything else that you want to say before we sign off for the night?
I just really appreciate everyone coming in and giving us the time of the day. I know it took a lot longer than we were supposed to, so I apologize for going quickly, but yeah, I'm excited to work with you all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking forward to further conversations and free consultations that we'll be giving over the next few weeks.
Right.
Looking
Perfect.
forward to that.
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, if you missed it, they are one of our new member benefits. So by being a Farm Bureau member, that's something you can take advantage of. And we hope that you do. These guys have an infinite amount of knowledge, and we're really, really glad to have them on board and partner with them. And again, thank you all for joining us. I know we went a little bit over time, but it was really good information and some really great questions. So thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you at our next webinar Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. All the best.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you all.
care.
Have a good evening. Good night, John.
Bye bye. Yeah, see you later.
Bye, John.
Bye bye. Off to bed.